Hey, hey.
What's up?
Just jamming.
I like that we can control it.
We can
Dance
just wait the whole
Party
time.
USA. Go. Yeah.
Anyways, you've got a kitty in front of
I
you.
know he's just staring at me. Hey, everybody.
Hey, welcome.
Welcome to another week of Case Files with Kat.
And Ashley.
Hey. And this cat named Louie.
He's so soft looking.
He's
so
gonna go.
pretty.
He's gonna go sit behind your computer once he figures out that you have it out.
I know. I'm afraid he's going to knock my drink over.
He might lick it, but no, he won't knock it over. I promise.
It's okay.
How are you doing? How's your week? What's new?
It's great. It's Tuesday. Well, it'll be Thursday when people are listening.
Right.
But I did a presentation this morning that went well. So I'm peopled out, to be quite honest. And I still have to go to the grocery store. So.
And I know what she means by that. I'm peopled out.
I am peopled out.
I
I've had
get
lots
it.
of meetings today, but it's been a good week. It's been pretty good lately. So
It's a lot of smiles.
yeah,
Like just so great to see you.
Life is just
so good.
going well, you know.
Let's talk about true crime.
Medication helps. I'll tell you that.
Yay. Are you liking your medication?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easier now
Yes.
on the tum-tums.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's easier on everything, honestly. Like just all the way around, things have been better. So
That's awesome.
yes.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Mental health.
It matters.
That's your mental
Listen,
health moment.
I was so hesitant and so freaked out so I got prescribed Lexapro and I was so afraid to take it because I went down this long rabbit hole on TikTok of all these people talking about their horrible negative experiences with medication. And I was like giving myself anxiety about taking the medication I was prescribed for my anxiety disorder and depression. And it was like causing me more stress. But I ended up taking it and it's been almost 2 weeks now and it honestly has helped so much. And I'm just on a low dose of it. So like
That's awesome.
I say do it if you're on the fence about it.
And I didn't laugh at you.
No, I know.
But you made it funny. You did make a joke about it.
I mean,
so
I really
that's what I was
did give
laughing
myself so much anxiety about. I waited 2 or 3 days after I had the prescription to like actually take it. But anyways, it's why I'm also not drinking. So, anyways,
Well, I'm having one, so I'll
Yes.
share it with you
Okay.
spiritually.
sounds good. I'm drinking a Coke.
It's so great.
So
good.
wonderful.
It's so good.
that's
Okay,
great.
well, what you got for us today? Did you do a question of the week? Because I didn't see it.
I didn't because this story I feel is a little bit longer than the ones I've been doing.
Oh, okay.
Not like super crazy, not like a 2-hour episode, but I just feel like it's a little bit crazier. I actually prepared in advance
Okay.
and have clips to play. Like
Okay.
it was I actually heard of this story on TikTok, like a very brief description of it. And I was like, oh, that's so weird. And I was like, no way that could be a real story. And
Oh,
and
interesting.
so I went and looked it up and it's kind of, I guess, a disappearance, true crime. I don't know. It's all rolled into one. So I'm just going to dive in.
Okay. I'm ready.
So again, I said when I heard it, I was like, this is so bizarre. There's no way this is real. But yeah. So wake up. This is a robbery. Those are the words that Denise Huskins and her boyfriend Aaron Quinn heard in the early morning of March 23rd, 2015. What would follow was a series of terrifying events that felt like the stuff of movies. So a lot of what I'm going to be talking
I
about.
know this story.
Yeah, so a lot of like what I'm going to be talking about came from an ABC interview of him. There was a 2020 episode. There's a ton of interviews about it because of what actually happened after the kidnapping.
Yeah, I remember this story. This is wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
So Denise would be taken from her boyfriend's home for over 48 horrifying hours, while authorities insisted the entire time that the kidnapping was a hoax. So the entire time, they didn't believe her boyfriend. They were accusing him of doing something or
I
her
remember,
lying.
yeah.
And so they literally were not even looking for her. Like, they thought they were making it up.
Wow.
So in March of 2015, Denise and her boyfriend, Aaron, again, they were bound with zip ties and forced into a closet in Aaron's California home. In the closet, they were drugged and blindfolded with blacked out goggles. Quinn said the moment was so shocking that it froze him in his place. Laying zip ties on the bed, the intruder told Huskins to tie Quinn's feet. So the people that had come in said, you've got to zip tie him, put his hands behind his back and zip tie his hands. And then she said that the man made her and her boyfriend walk to the closet. Now, she says that when they were walking to the closet, she saw 2 sets of legs and was convinced there were multiple people in the room doing this to them, not just a singular person. So there were pre-recorded messages, Huskins said, referring to what they heard through the headphones. So they had headphones on, and the guy was playing the messages. It says they were going to give us a sedative, and if we didn't take it, they would inject it through an IV. So the guy didn't actually speak outside of telling them to zip tie. They had to listen to these pre-recorded messages, and it was super bizarre. He was just you're going to take this medication. If you don't take it, I'm going to inject it through a shot.
Hi, thank you for flying Southwest Airlines. In a moment, your stewardess will be giving you some medication.
And so in the pre-recorded message, it referred to Aaron by his name.
Oh,
And in
wow.
that moment, he said he thought to himself, we're in a lot of trouble and this is planned. So the guy, he's being asked questions. So Aaron's being asked questions by the man. And at some point, the intruders realize they've got the wrong person, said Melanie Woodrow. She was an investigative reporter for ABC.
Huh?
And the intruder says, we have a problem. And he says to Aaron, do Denise and your ex-fiance look alike? And at that moment, Quinn said the intruder let out a guttural sigh. I was like, yes, they both have long blonde hair, Quinn said. And so the intruder said, we've got the wrong intel. So the intruder was actually there for Quinn's ex-fiance, for Aaron's ex-fiance. He did not know that Aaron and that other girl had broken up and he was engaged or dating someone else, and that the two looked very similar. So Aaron had lived with his ex-fiance in that house before their breakup, and she had recently moved all of her belongings out. And Huskins said she had hoped that the confusion would result in the intruder deciding to just leave, realizing that he had made a horrible mistake and they hadn't actually seen him. But that is not what happened. He said, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take you for 48 hours. Aaron's going to have to complete some tasks before we'll let you go. So at this point, everything was going off course for the intruder. Wrong girl. The plan wasn't going, just things were not going right. So Woodrow said that Quinn was moved downstairs where he was placed on a couch and told that a camera on the wall would be watching him and that he couldn't leave a perimeter marked by tape on the floor. The man then used duct tape to tie Quinn's ankles and asked if he was comfortable. I asked for a blanket, and he goes, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize how cold it is because we're all wearing wetsuits. So he was trying to tell, the intruder was saying, we're all wearing wetsuits, right? So nothing that the intruder said to them made sense, but that's what they say he said. We're all wearing wetsuits.
But what's her name saw them? Did she say?
She said that as she was having to put the goggles on and walk, she thought she saw 2 sets of legs, but there was only one actual voice and then the pre-recorded messages.
But were those 2 sets of legs wearing wetsuits?
She didn't say. Like, it was very brief. It was just they were putting the blackout goggles on her, and she thought that she saw 2 sets of legs.
Okay.
She didn't specify, but he claims that we're all wearing wetsuits, so implying that there were multiple people.
That's right. And that they were in wetsuits.
Wetsuits for whatever reason. But he was being very thoughtful. He got him a blanket. He wanted to make sure, even though he was tied up on a couch and told he couldn't leave because he was being watched on a camera and he had been drugged, that he was comfortable. So, yeah, I don't know.
Did they have security cameras?
They did not. The intruder told them that he
brought a
had
camera
a camera that was watching him, and if he moved without like outside of the perimeter that he had made on the floor with tape, that something would happen to the girlfriend.
Wow.
That something would happen to Denise.
Wow.
So Woodrow said the intruder told Quinn that they were going to communicate with him via text and email, and that they had even created an email address for this correspondence. So Quinn said he was told to call out sick at his job and to text Huskins' boss that she had a family emergency and would be out for a week. He was also told he would have to withdraw money from his bank and that he'd have a camera monitoring his moves. Now, I don't know how he was supposed to withdraw money from his bank if he wasn't allowed to leave the perimeter and how many cameras were involved. But they told him that cameras would be watching his every move. So maybe he just had to transfer money, like a wire transfer, but they specifically told him, the intruder told him, he would have to withdraw money from his bank and that he'd have a camera watching everything he was doing. If I went to the police, they would kill her, he said. Eventually, the intruder picked up Huskins and put her in the trunk of Quinn's car before driving away with her. So the intruder took Aaron's car, didn't even take his own car. So no one exactly knows how he originally got there. I mean, if he was in a wetsuit, maybe he swam. Like, I don't fucking know. But he took Aaron's car. So he took Denise. She was still blindfolded, had already been drugged, put her in the trunk of Aaron's car, and drove off. So after the man left...
Who's Aaron and who's Quinn?
Okay. Aaron Quinn. Quinn is Aaron's last name. A lot of the articles refer to...
Okay.
Sorry. Denise Huskins is the girlfriend.
Denise Huskins and Aaron
Quinn is the boyfriend.
Okay.
And then Woodrow is the investigator for ABC.
Okay.
They have not named the intruder yet.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So you're going back and forth. Sorry.
Okay. From here on out, I will use their last names. Okay.
Okay. So Quinn.
So Quinn is the boyfriend. Okay. Huskins is Denise.
Sorry, I'm sure everybody else was keeping up, but
I'm sorry. It's just so many interviews and stuff referred to them as their last name. So, anyway, so after the man left, Quinn said he was able to push the goggles off his eyes, but the drugs were starting to take effect, and around 5 a.m. he passed out. So, Denise was taken from the home. She was held captive at a remote location where she was drugged and raped twice by her abductor. She was released 2 days later on March 25th, very close to her mother's home in Huntington Beach, California. So, it was pretty much her family's home where he let her go. So, either that was very coincidental or, he knew, because that was 400 miles away from where she was taken. So, either he knew this about her personally somehow, or it was just a coincidence that he dropped her 400 miles away, very close to her parents' house. So, while she was being held captive, authorities in Northern California City interrogated Quinn for hours, theorizing that he might have done something to his girlfriend's disappearance. So they just absolutely did not believe anything about this. They did not believe that they had been tied, an intruder, that she had been kidnapped. They just, no way it could be believed. And so when Quinn woke up the next morning with only enough energy due to the sedatives to call out sick for Huskins and himself, he fell back asleep at 11:30 a.m. And so because he fell back asleep instead of calling 911, the police kind of took that as super suspicious. But he was really drugged. He was on these heavy sedatives. And so anyways, he woke up to new emails and texts from the intruder. They demanded 2 payments of $8,500, he said. He responded to the kidnapper's message, but when he didn't hear back, he began to panic. So again, they had demanded these 2 random payments of $8,500, and because of that, the police were like, well, that's such a random amount. Like, that doesn't make sense for a ransom. So again, they were suspect. Concerned that the camera the intruders installed was still monitoring him, he believed he could not call 911. So Quinn's older brother was actually an FBI agent, and so he decided he would call him instead, and his brother immediately told him to call 911.
Even with the threat of his life?
Well, it was more of the threat of Denise's life. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But the fact that his older brother was an FBI agent and like that wasn't the first call he made, I mean, that is kind of weird. But anyways, so his brother convinced him to call the police, so he called 911. Fearing he was putting Huskins' life in grave danger, he like I said, he dialed the police. When officers from the Vallejo Police Department appeared at his house, it had been more than 9 hours since Huskins had been taken. Quinn said the first question the police asked him when they entered their door was, "Are you on drugs?" "I said, yes, the kidnappers drugged me," he said. Quinn said the officers entered the house and then immediately unplugged the camera that the kidnapper had left. Then they continued to question Quinn about what he'd been doing before calling for help. He starts asking if I'd been partying. I tell him no. He points to some beer bottles that were neatly placed in a box next to the garage, and I said I put them there to take them out for recycling all at once. There's an author of a book called Victim F, which covers the story, and she said they clearly didn't believe him. It is soul-crushing for Quinn because he's out of his mind worried about Denise. But again, the police just didn't believe his story. Like, you've been passed out for 9 hours. You didn't call your brother who's in the FBI. The ransom is $8,500. Like, just all of these things did sound kind of weird.
When you put it all like that.
Yeah.
100%. Absolutely.
And so Quinn's car is missing, and
we've done enough true crime to know that it's gonna be the guy close, more often than not.
Right. And so Quinn's car is missing. They know that he waited a substantial period of time before dialing 911. They see all of these components of what you might expect to see objectively in a domestic violence murder. So they really thought that they got into some kind of fight. He killed her. He used his car to dispose of her, and that's why the car was missing. They really thought it was like a domestic violence type situation. So Quinn said the officers eventually seemed to soften a little bit and told him they were taking him to the police station to give a statement. But while he was there, the police gathered DNA samples in his clothes. In return, he says they gave him prison clothes to wear. So during questioning, Quinn recounted what had happened the night before. He told the detectives about the goggles placed over their eyes, the specific directions they were given, the recordings that played on the headphones. But Quinn said the detectives began to ask him about his relationship with Huskins. They did not care about anything he had to say about what actually happened. So in video recordings of the interview, Detective Matthew Mustard could be heard asking if there was tension in the relationship and if Quinn was cheating. Quinn said he realized the interview was taking a turn when about 45 minutes into it, the detective leaned back in the chair and told him, "I don't think you're being truthful, and I don't think anybody came into your house." Mustard could be heard telling Quinn in the videotaped interrogation, he said, "The story you're telling here, I ain't buying it at all." And so Quinn said, "I'm telling Mustard everything because I have nothing to hide." And to make matters worse, the detectives found a small blood stain on Quinn's sheets. Quinn said, "I knew there was an old stain on my sheet. I'd washed those sheets multiple times. It's just a small, tiny stain that I wasn't able to get out. Little did I know a quarter-sized blood stain was going to mean that I was a murderer." So they basically found this dried, old, little tiny blood stain on his bed sheets, which honestly could have been there if the murderers had cut them with the ties or whatever. But anyway, so they were accusing him of murder, essentially saying they didn't believe his story. They were totally suspect of him the entire time. Right. And so when Quinn's parents and brother arrived at the police station, the police questioned them too. We were telling the detective what a good kid he was, says Marianne Quinn, his mother. They kept asking, has he ever gotten angry? Has he done drugs before? They said, maybe we were in a fight and I pushed her down the stairs, Quinn said. Maybe we were experimenting with drugs. Maybe we were into weird sex things and something went wrong. Anything but the truth. So the detectives called Huskins' parents and alerted them that something terrible might have happened to their daughter. The FBI, which also got involved in the case, gave Quinn a polygraph exam, something he was eager to take to prove his innocence, which they claim he failed. So, exhausted and worried about Huskins and anxious over the detective's refusal to believe him, Quinn said he began to doubt his own sanity. I thought, maybe I had a schizophrenic breakdown, he said. Maybe I did do this. And his brother, Ethan, retained an attorney named Dan Russo who brought Quinn back to his office after 18 hours of straight police interrogation. He said, I knew from experience how this was going to go down, Russo said. I told him, look, this is going to be a nightmare and there's no way you're going to be able to pinch yourself and wake up. So on March 24th, one day after the incident, the San Francisco Chronicle received what's known as a proof of life message from Denise. In that recorded message sent by the kidnappers, Huskins spoke about a recent plane crash to prove the message wasn't old. So investigators brought Quinn back to the station that same day and asked him to send a message back to the kidnapper. When he was handed his phone, Quinn says a member of his legal team noticed that it had been placed in airplane mode, even though it was the only means of communication with the kidnappers. When they turned the airplane mode off, the phone flooded with messages. It was later discovered the kidnapper had called the phone 3 times, trying to get a hold of Quinn. But the police had put it in airplane mode, so none of those ever came through. So, Quinn is being questioned at the police department. The police don't believe any of it. Huskins turns up alive in Huntington Beach, California, 400 miles away from where she was taken on March 25th, 2 days after she had gone missing, as the kidnapper had promised them previously. So, this is from Huskins. I heard him drive off. I slowly counted to 10. I peeled the tape off my eyes and was by myself in this alleyway. The kidnapper who had taken Huskins' bags when he abducted her had removed them from the car and placed them on the ground. So she grabbed her bags and started walking down the alley. And she looked at the street corner and she knew the name. It was the street that she grew up on. Which, again, it's kind of weird that's like the street that she grew up on. I don't know how to pronounce it. Utica, Utica. So anyways, still sedated, she realized that she'd been dropped off near her mother's house, and when she arrived at her house, no one was there. Huskins borrowed a cell phone from a stranger and called her father, who did not answer. So after leaving a voicemail with him, she began walking to her father's home. She said a neighbor allowed her into the house while she waited, and her father said he heard the voicemail and got a word to the Huntington Police Department. Huntington police officers arrived at the neighbor's apartment where Huskins was waiting and began questioning her, who recounted everything that had happened 2 nights earlier, including the events that unfolded after she was taken from Quinn's home.
So she reiterated everything that Quinn said. She
confirmed everything that he had said. When police asked her if she had been sexually assaulted, she originally told them that she hadn't. She later explained she feared that the kidnapper had threatened her and her family if she revealed 2 specific details. 1, that anyone involved in the abduction was in the military, or 2, that she had been raped. So the person who took her told her, if you tell them that I was in the military, like, how would she even know that? Or 2, that I raped you, I will kill you and your entire family. So she withheld those things because she really believed it. I mean, she'd been tortured for 48 hours by this person or people. So although Huskins' mother and father were They were at the police department assisting police. They contacted family back in Huntington Beach to go get Huskins. So eventually, a cousin who had recently passed the bar exam and become an attorney insisted he be allowed to see her. So according to Huskins, Mustard, which was the investigator that was questioning Quinn the whole time, told her cousin, whose name is Nick, "We'll give immunity to whoever confesses first to making this entire thing up." So even though she reappeared, you could tell she had been abused and whatever, and she confirmed everything that Quinn had said. They literally still were accusing both of them now of lying and it being a hoax. They did not take her seriously. They were trying to get one of them to turn on the other one. Like they said, whoever turns on the other one first, we won't prosecute you. So, Mustard has since denied making that statement, but several witnesses heard him say that. So the FBI even offered to fly Huskins back to Vallejo on its airplane. By this point, Huskins says it was clear to her that she needed to hire a criminal defense attorney. And so her defense attorney named Doug Rappaport is I guess how you say it, Rappaport, said he insisted she shouldn't get on that plane and should take a commercial flight instead. So Huskins recalled sitting in the airport, fearful for her life, paranoid that the kidnapper might find her and take her away again. So meanwhile, Huskins' reappearance had set off a media firestorm fueled by suggestions that her case bore striking resemblance to the book and film Gone Girl. The fictional story is about a woman who fakes her own disappearance as a revenge against her cheating husband. So the comparisons began at the police department when they announced that Huskins' abduction appeared to be an orchestrated event and not a kidnapping. That's exactly what they told the media, was that they had planned this whole thing. It was not a kidnapping. So, on the same day that Huskins was released by her abductor, Vallejo Police spokesperson Lieutenant Kenny Park hosted a press conference where he suggested that both Huskins and Quinn lied about what happened to them. Miss Quinn and Miss Huskins have plundered valuable resources away from our community, basically saying that they wasted everyone's time and that they should be ashamed of themselves. So when Huskins arrived in San Francisco to meet with her new attorney, she finally felt safe enough to reveal all of the details of what happened to her during captivity that she had been afraid to tell the police. So she tells her attorney that she had been raped twice and said that he videotaped it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I shared with him. So when she says I shared with him, she's talking about the kidnapper, okay? She said, right. I shared with him about being molested as a child, thinking maybe if he found out and heard how I had already been violated and how it impacted me in my life, that perhaps some bit of him will just go, okay, I won't do this to her again. I'm not going to do it. But Huskins says that her captor told her that he didn't care. He was part of a criminal organization that included 3 other members. Each individual was in charge of a different part of the operation. She said her captor told her he was being instructed to make the recording as a form of collateral over Huskins. So by recording, she's talking about when he was videotaping the rape. So once she was released, if she attempted to go to the police, she said the kidnapper told her the group would release the recording on the internet. So her attorney and Russo both went to bat for their clients. So that's her attorney and Quinn's attorney. They both went to court and they endured repeated questioning by the police and the FBI. According to court filings, when Huskins' attorney pushed the police department to conduct a rape exam, they delayed it and did not want to do it. They did not want to give her, do a rape kit on her. I said
she hadn't showered, right?
Yeah, and they hadn't done anything. They hadn't even asked about it. They hadn't looked for evidence other than say.
But at this point, if you take a shower, she still had not showered.
At the point that they were asking for everything, no.
Okay.
I said, we have evidence that's going to dissipate And they said the most callous thing that I think I've ever heard somebody say from law enforcement. They said, well, just have her sleep in her clothes and don't take a shower and we'll just talk about it in the morning. So,
fucking hell.
So they wanted her to continue wearing the clothes that she'd been wearing for the past 48 hours as she was tortured, as she was raped and dropped off. They said, just tell her to sleep in them and we'll just figure it out in the morning if we're going to do it or not. They also now claim they didn't say that, but both attorneys have gone on record in saying they absolutely did say that. So there are witnesses to the police department telling them that. So
I hope those people don't have jobs anymore.
Mariana, which again is Quinn's mom, said she was shocked when the police started calling Huskins Gone Girl. So I'm going to play the first clip. And this is Huskins talking on the 2020 episode.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to describe what it's like to sit back silently and watch the world have a conversation on the most horrific thing that you've lived through.
For Denise Huskins, everything changed one fateful night.
I remember thinking, like, God, this is a really bad nightmare.
It's one that still haunts her today. 3 years ago, she was dragged from her boyfriend Aaron Quinn's bed in the dead of the night, drugged, kidnapped, and raped. She then mysteriously reappeared 2 days later, about 400 miles away in Southern California. Aaron had gone to the police, pleading for them to investigate.
Everything was accusatory, and fairly quickly the detective said, I don't believe you.
Our investigation has concluded that none of the claims has been substantiated.
The Vallejo County Police publicly declared it all a hoax.
Mr. Quinn and Ms. Huskins has plundered valuable resources away from our community.
So I'm going to play another clip in just a second. So you go through something like that, and every moment, every ounce of energy is about how do I live to see another second? That is all you can think about, said Huskins. The last thing that you're thinking about is if I do survive, I need to make sure that I'm believable. So I'm going to play this other little clip. Let me get to it.
How did you get away? He made the decision to release me, and he said that he was gonna drive me all the way down to Southern California.
Your hometown?
Yeah. When he opened the car door, I thought, like, this is it. Like, either I'm gonna hear a gunshot and that's it, or I'm gonna get pushed off a cliff. I thought I was walking to my death. And then I heard a door close behind me, and I pulled up the blindfold, and I just started walking, and the only thing that I was thinking of was I want to see my mom and dad.
It seemed a near miraculous ending to a horrendous ordeal, but for Denise and Aaron, a new sort of trauma was just beginning.
I didn't act like a good enough victim.
Shortly after Denise reappeared, the Vallejo Police Department held this press conference.
That is a tremendous amount of resources that, in my opinion, was wasted. So if anything, it is Mr. Quinn and Ms. Huskins that owes this community an apology.
So when I first heard that, it's heartbreaking. Like, I didn't play a good enough victim. Like, how much trauma do you have to go through to prove to these people that something happened to you? You know what I mean? Like,
ask every rape victim who has come forward.
Yeah. So even after that, they just didn't believe her. And so it only took a day from her reappearance. The San Francisco Chronicle received a new message from the kidnapper because he was getting really effing irritated that people were saying his crime was a hoax. He wanted people to know he was, like, legit. So he was upset by this, so he sent a message to the San Francisco Chronicle on March 26, 2015, that contained explicit details about the kidnapping as well as photos of evidence, even showing the room where he had been holding Huskins the whole time. So her lawyer said this new evidence the police still stuck to their story that Quinn and Huskins' story was just too unbelievable to be true. The kidnapper literally sent in photos proving she had been held somewhere, while Quinn was being interrogated. Yet they still didn't believe the story. So, up until this point, neither Huskins nor Quinn had seen each other since the incident, so they hadn't been allowed to see each other. So Huskins said she thought she had a safe feeling of being in his arms while in captivity, and that she was sick with anticipation, wondering he thought of her, and if she was really this horrible liar. And he said he was eager to, like, she was afraid he was going to think she orchestrated the event, and he was freaking out, thinking he actually may have had some kind of mental break and did it, because the police were just making them feel insane, like repeatedly telling them that they were liars and not telling the truth and they should be ashamed and whatever else. So they were both mentally just like suffering. She was going through so much. So I just wanted to hold her. I just wanted to tell her I was sorry, said Quinn. I was really afraid that she wouldn't want to see me, that she would just want to wipe her hands clean. So they cried when they were reunited. It was a week after all of it. After she returned, it was a week before they were even able to see each other. So weeks passed without a break in the case because, again, the police were just not really giving a shit. And Huskins and Quinn found themselves the prime suspects in their own home invasion and kidnapping case. Their lives were just falling apart while living in a constant state of terror and preparing for defense. Quinn said he was afraid to lose he was going to lose his job, and Huskins was afraid that the kidnapper was going to come back and kill them because they went to the police. So it was devastating to see both of them. Quinn's mom said they could not function. They were not able to function. On June 5th, 2015, the same year, like 2 months after this happened, there was a major break in the case when police in another city, Dublin, California, which is an hour south of where Huskins and Quinn live, responded to a report of a home robbery. The suspect essentially did the same exact things to another couple. But this time, the break-in went very wrong. When he attempts to tie up the wife, the husband jumps across the bed, tackles the suspect. The suspect tried to get away. He, in turn, hits the husband upside the head with a Maglite-style flashlight and exits the home. During the struggle, however, the kidnapper dropped his phone and left it at the house. Dublin police were able to trace the phone to a woman who told them that it belonged to her son, a man named Matthew Mueller, who had lost his phone a day earlier. Well. It turned out that Mueller was not your typical criminal. He was a U.S. Marine for 5 years. Remember, one of the stipulations was that she could not tell the police that one of the kidnappers was a Marine, so that's where this comes into play. He was a U.S. Marine for 5 years and graduated summa cum laude from Pomona College in California before going and attending Harvard Law. So his lawyers would argue in court that he suffered from truly debilitating. Yes, thank you. Bipolar disorder with extreme paranoia and psychosis. So in interviews, his mother told them he was staying at their cabin in the South Lake Tahoe area during all of this stuff. So Misty Karasu was a day away from officially being made a detective when she agreed to take part in the arrest of Matthew Mueller and the search of this South Lake Tahoe home. She said that he looked unremarkable when he was escorted out. When they searched the cabin, the Dublin officers found several laptops, cell phones, stun guns, ski mask, an empty bed with no blankets but a sheet that appeared to have been slept on. They also discovered he was driving a stolen car. Can you guess whose car that may have been?
Ooh, I know.
It was Quinn's. There was a number of replica squirt guns, said one of them had just your typical pin-style laser pointer that was duct taped to it. There were several swim goggles that were duct-taped black, similar to the blacked-out goggles that Quinn and Huskins told the police in March that they had to wear. One in particular had blonde hair strands attached to the duct tape. And the detective, like the Dublin detective, said, why would there be a blonde hair stuck to goggles? In the Dublin home invasion, none of them had blonde hair. But, folks, if you remember, Huskins had blonde hair. So shocking. This story makes me so mad. So the detective had a nagging feeling that he had attempted this kind of crime before. So looking back at all the evidence, there was no denying that this was not his first time committing a crime, she said. I just had to figure out where those other crimes occurred. So she did research on his name and found that although he had never been charged, he had been a person of interest in several other incidences in nearby cities. 2 incidences from 2009 that involved an unknown man breaking into the homes of the female victims and threatening to rape them. She also tracked down the owner of the stolen car, which was Aaron Quinn. And so when she researched the kidnapping, she remembered this so-called Gone Girl case that had gotten so much media attention. She attempted to reach the Vallejo police, but says she initially did not get a call back. When they did respond, she says they told her to call the FBI. She told them about Mueller and the 2 FBI agents, and a representative from Vallejo Police came pretty quickly after that. The authorities were able to then confirm the details of Quinn and Huskins' case, even finding Quinn's computer at the South Lake Tahoe cabin. They also found the address where Huskins had been dropped off in the stolen vehicle's GPS system. Quinn and Huskins' defense attorneys say they celebrated the developments in the case, holding a press conference in which they called for full apologies from the police department. Mueller was charged in a federal court in Sacramento, California, with kidnapping for ransom. What he wasn't charged for were the sexual assaults, the robbery, the burglary, and the reason being is that there was no jurisdiction in federal court for those crimes. So in November 2020, 5 years after all of this happened, he was found mentally unfit to stand trial and was sent to a secure mental health facility in Solano County, California. And so he went to this
That just makes me so mad. I'm just over here like fuming quietly.
So, I didn't know if you were like saying no because anyway. So they sent him to this mental health facility. He was there for about a year, and then he pleaded guilty to the federal kidnapping charge and was sentenced to 40 years in prison. So Mueller has since been charged in Solano County with kidnapping for ransom, 2 counts of forcible rape, robbery, burglary, false imprisonment. He pled not guilty to those state charges, but was found guilty anyways and sentenced to an additional 31 years in 2022. So while he's in jail, he still attends court-ordered mental health treatments, but he is in actual prison now. So like he's not in the hospital. He's in actual prison.
Oh, well, that's good. And I'm glad you're getting mental health help. People need to get mental health help, but god damn.
Yeah. So Quinn and Huskins continue to believe that there were others involved in the home invasion and kidnapping, but Mueller is the only person who has ever been charged. It has never been made clear why Quinn and his ex-fiancée were the original targets of the abduction.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Like, how, like, our intel is wrong. How did he know that there was this other...
And they knew Aaron by name.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, how... There had to have been, like, where did she work? He must have known her, like, in passing, like, and had a weird...
You were so obsessed, but you didn't know they had broken up and that she had moved all out and he was dating someone else.
100%.
Quinn and Huskins continued to believe, like I said, that there was more. So she's convinced that she saw the 2 legs. Then he told her the fact that there was 3 people in the operation.
Right.
And then Huskins said that he specifically said wearing wetsuits. So either he was referring to other personalities or they really saw other people, but they were scared that other people.
Oh, that's an interesting.
Because he was considered schizophrenic. So,
but if she swears
she saw the two legs, but again, she was drugged. Her adrenaline was going, so who knows what she really saw? But she does say she saw two legs. He said, we're wearing wetsuits. And then when she was kidnapped, he said, there's 3 people in the operation. I'm just one of those people.
Which now sounds like it was another personality.
Yeah.
It was the one in charge or the one that was nice.
Yeah.
Oh.
So there were things that happened that we saw, that we heard. It's just would have been impossible to have been done by one guy. Huskins said, there are other people out there. That's something we've had to live with and somehow make peace with. So they truly believe it. And they still fear that even today. Like there's a lot of interviews in 2022 and 2023 because he just got, charged in 2022. And they talk about being scared all of this time and like being worried that they'll come back for them. But as a side note, Denise and Aaron sued the police department and they won $2.5 million. I really feel like they were worth way more than that. Yes.
God, sorry. Yes.
I feel like they deserved way more. But they won the $2.5 million and they got married.
Yay. I was going to ask if they stayed together.
Yeah, so they stayed together. They got married. They've gone to therapy and they've been trying to work through it. But the police department never really apologized. They deny saying a lot of the things that witnesses heard them say. So,
I mean, they were basically saying all of those things on TV.
And can you imagine?
We don't believe them.
Yeah.
They owe us
an
apology.
Had they just believed them and done some damn police work, maybe that other situation wouldn't have happened. But no, it took it happening to another family for them to even, a whole nother police department and a woman detective, to take it seriously and get to the bottom of it. So anyways, the ABC's 2020 episode is called Taken, and it aired on June 5th, 2021. You can watch it on YouTube. Like I said, I'll put it in the show notes. There's a ton of, ABC covered this extensively. So they have the 2020 episode. They have follow-up interviews. They have like a 5-part series about it. The 2020 episode is not on Hulu, even though other episodes are for some reason. Like it totally skips it. So I don't know why. But you can watch the full episode on ABC's actual YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
And they do a really good coverage of the whole thing and a lot of interviews with Denise and Aaron. But yeah, so that's my story.
Yay. I like that.
It's crazy.
Makes me so
imagine not being
mad.
believed.
Yeah, like and you know the visual, the theatrical visual of it, of just those asshole cops, you know, leaning back, going, "Yeah, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying what you're selling," you know, and. Were you cheating on her and you wanted to get rid of her and
telling her to sleep in the clothes,
just so
and
many
they would
things.
Just deal with it the next day.
So many things. They should have lost their jobs.
They should have been put in jail themselves, is what I feel like.
I mean, yes, ruin their lives. That's just how I feel about it. I think they should just have their lives ruined. But now we know what that guy's face looks like, and if I ever see him on the street, he'll hear it.
So, anyways, at least the person that was responsible did end up in prison. He is still in prison.
Is there a picture of him?
Yes.
I'll see him.
There's actually a lot of stories about him, too. He doesn't look like anything crazy.
Is that him?
I don't think so. No, that's him, though, right there. Yeah, but then his mugshot is... But he was a Harvard law student. He had high grades. He was a Marine for 5 years. Like,
he looks like my rapist. So
no, but right, he just looks like your average guy, right?
Yeah.
Like your average white guy.
Again, he looks like my rapist. But yeah, he is unsuspecting.
He would just blend in.
He would blend in. He could probably be like, "Oh no, officer, I don't know what's happening." But then he would, his other personality would kick in. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I kind of, I agree. I feel like there must have been someone else. There was so much planning.
I'm just so confused by the whole intel, but I guess that would be his military side of things, I mean, I don't know.
And like you said, if you knew so much about her, why didn't you know she wasn't there anymore?
But to me, like the first thing was like he was so concerned about their comfort level when he was at the home, and then he takes her back and then rapes her and videotapes
the other
it
personality.
Yeah. And so it makes me think that he was the only person, and he was just mentally, not to excuse his behavior, but he was mentally insane.
He was having a me, myself, and Irene moment.
So,
do you remember that movie?
No.
He has the two personality. Jim Carrey.
Yeah. Sorry.
Lame. But anyway. Well, that was a great story. Thank you for regaling us with that. Wonderful,
yes. Like I said, I saw that and I just
had to do it. All right, guys. Well, next week I got another whopper of a story too. So hang tight. Do we have a voicemail or no? We weren't doing.
It was Deanne, but she was just telling us about a really crazy series we have to watch.
Okay, so we're not.
I mean, I can play it, but it's just her. It's what she told us. Frogging is what I think she called it. It's where people live in your crawl space and your attics, and you don't know it, and they're just living in your home, observing you.
So I guess we're doing that story.
New fear unlocked.
It
was kind of like that one story I did where the guy came
just
out
like that.
And was like attacking the girls
with the ketchup
and pretended to be their dead mother or whatever.
Really effed up.
But it's called frogging, apparently.
PHROGGING. Yes. Anyway, thanks everybody. We'll see you next week. Until then, just be good, please, to yourselves and each other. Be nice. See something, say something, and believe survivors. Change the culture. Let's do it. All right. See you next week.
Bye.